everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're feeling at home. I recently did a video about Eric Dubay. That woke a couple of flirts up, and one made a couple of comments. Pantomath, do you ever provide evidence or just assumptions and ad homs? Why would I be recommended a shill like you? Now, in my Dubay video, I issued a simple challenge to Eric, which was to come up with an explanation of how the tops of mountains are lit first at dawn and last at dusk. And Pantomath made a second comment. A challenge, lumfeo. Maybe you ain't a shill, as a shill ain't gonna ask such a childish question. What a complete waste of my time watching this guff. Well, before tackling that, here's a quick lesson for flirts. I've never heard of the word Pantomath before. I've heard of a polymath, but not a Pantomath. So what did I do? I went and found out what it was. A Pantomath is a person who wants to know and knows everything. The word itself is not found in common online English dictionaries. The word Pantomath seems to have been used to imply a polymath in a superlative sense, as it were one who satisfies requirements even more stricter than those to be applied to a polymath. Wow, he must be a clever guy. So he's criticised me about lack of evidence and ad hominem attacks, whereas I thought I provided evidence, and I don't just call people silly names. So I thought I'd check out his channel. First couple of things I saw, a 9/11 truther video. Then I also saw a Challenger disaster hoax video. Yes, he's one of those obnoxious flirts. But since I'm not going to tackle those subjects, I thought I'd pick another one of his videos and bust him to bits. This is done with the support of my army of patrons. With massive thanks to all my patrons, including new patrons Alexander Henkel, Janie, Stephen Huxtable, Paul Reap, Surf, Number 6, and my newest patrons Corpus Defectus, Tiffany Hall, Erebathron and Bardtail. Thank you all so very much. So come on then, Petal, do your worst. Roll VT.
Hi, I'm Commander Chris Hadfield, astronaut, spaceship commander, spacewalker, part-time musician.
Full-time liar, deceiver of humanity? Doesn't that sound a bit like an ad hominem attack already?
I'm here today to hopefully debunk some common space myths. Here's this common perception that you will immediately fry to a crisp by the unfiltered, unadulterated solar radiation if you get sucked out of the airlock. In truth, it's way worse than that. In the shade in space, it's like minus 250 degrees. But the part of you that's in the sun, it's plus 250 degrees at least. So it's going to start boiling and burning. So it's like lying on a red hot stove with a piece of dry ice on your back.
Yep, with no suit, you'd burn on one side and freeze on the other.
And your lungs are going to be sucked flat instantaneously. But even worse than that is your blood is going to boil, like opening a can of pop where suddenly all the little bubbles come out because there's no air pressure around you. So simultaneously, you are going to freeze, boil, burn, get the bends, and no longer be able to breathe. Not a good way to go. I've done 2 spacewalks, and I was very thankful to have a spacesuit around my body so that none of those things happen to me.
Didn't you listen to him, Pantomath? Or is it just that you want to replay what he said again to drum in about the freezing, burning, boiling, etc.?
You are going to freeze, boil, burn.
Well, surely you're a Pantomath. You should know more about everything, even more so than a polymath. What do you need it explaining to you?
In the shade in space, it's like minus 250 degrees. But the part of you that's in the sun, it's plus 250 degrees at least. So it's going to start boiling and burning.
What the hell do you think a spacesuit is for? It maintains the atmosphere for the astronaut to breathe, but it's also insulated and it's got heating and cooling systems to protect them against the very high temperature in the sunlight and very low temperature in the shade. That's its job.
And I was very thankful to have a spacesuit around my body so that none of those things happened to me.
Ah, I see. What you've actually been doing is letting him speak, giving himself enough rope to hang himself, and NASA, and all of us globeheads. Well, let's see if you can do that, or if you're going to look like a fool.
Medical exam. Meanwhile, Canadian Space Agency astronaut Chris Hadfield being lowered into his seat now after being extracted from the Soyuz craft. All 3 crew members now safely out.
We'll see it once again.
Oh, you've got a problem with blankets.
Oxygen 90.
Thumbs up
Yep, definitely a blanket issue.
from Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield returning from his command of the International Space Station. Chris was the first Canadian commander of a spacecraft.
I see. Is it even physically possible a body temperature can be affected by a blanket through a spacesuit? Do continue.
Wrapping up a historic 144 days on board the station.
Great, how are you doing? Good. Nice to meet you. Yes, yeah. Boy, that was quite a ride home. Quite a sound. Come on.
Roman Hermanenko heading to Star City, Russia. Hadfield and Marshburn heading back to Houston.
No, it's a momentous event that's been captured on film for posterity.
But for now, the crew members out of the Soyuz craft, which landed successfully at 9:31 p.m. Central Time.
Are you sure you want to recap? Because it's going to make you look very, very silly. Let's break this down. First the 3 stupid comments, and then your biggie about the blankets. First of all, the creepy hand washer. Now, I don't know, and I've not been able to find out why they washed their hands so soon, but I guess you don't either. But just calling the person who did it creepy, do you not think that is an ad hom attack? Number 2, unnecessary crowd with no jobs to do. Well, the recovery team will consist of all sorts of people with all sorts of skills, from the driver through to technicians and medics and who knows what. They don't all have jobs to do all the time. And why wouldn't you, if you were there, want to get in a photo that's going down in history? 3, unnecessary phone calls. These cosmonauts have spent days, weeks, or even months in orbit, away from friends and family. Don't you think that having finally arrived back on Earth safely, they'd want to call home and let everyone know that they're okay? And now your disbelief about the blankets. I'll have to show you a couple of things first. Here is astronaut Peggy Whitson, who spent 665 days, 22 hours and 22 minutes in total in space over her career. She's in a Russian Sokol spacesuit, practicing in one of their re-entry seats that's in a Soyuz capsule. And here is one of those Russian Sokol spacesuits on display. It's identical to the one that Hadfield was wearing in Kazakhstan. Look at the blue tabs across the chest, the blue connector in the centre, and the patch over his stomach area with an arch on top, together with the 2 black lines in a V. Yep, no doubt about it. Those are both the same type of suit. A Russian Sokol rescue suit. The Sokol rescue suit is not capable of being used outside the craft on an EVA. It's purely used in order to protect the astronaut or cosmonaut in the event of depressurization. So it's not got all the heating and cooling and insulation that a spacesuit has. Have a quick look at the difference between the two. Well, I've got quite a keen eye, and I think I can spot one or two differences between a full-fat spacesuit and a flight rescue suit. So, Pantomath, my strange old fruit, there's your answer. The so-called flight rescue suit is not a complete spacesuit. It has not got that insulation and heating and cooling that a proper EVA spacesuit has. Those guys have spent weeks or months in orbit, so they'll be physically weak under full gravity, so they can't move around. They're not going to be able to quickly get out of those spacesuits and get dressed in warm clothes, and it's minus 15 degrees, so they're given blankets. Well, you provided no evidence in your video whatsoever. It was just full of incredulity. You didn't do any research. You just made assumptions. And, of course, added a liberal sprinkling of ad hominem attacks. Now, you accused me of a childish question when I challenged Eric Dubay to come up with an explanation for lit mountain tops. But it's something that no flat earther seems able to answer. So perhaps it's not such a childish question after all. I look forward to you producing a video explaining how it works and how wrong I am. And as for a complete waste of time you watching this guff, well, maybe, just maybe, you'll have learnt something. Oh, you wanted to finish on a Bible quote, Luke 8:17. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known and brought out into the open. Well, I think you actually got one part of your video correct. Nothing hidden will not become known, etc. Because now it's known by everyone who has watched this video. What a fool you are. I hope everyone's enjoyed this video. Look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, stay sensible.
Shut up and sit down.